Uh, so first question, like, do we have anyone submit the question yet? So I just curious about how our events work. Should I answer the question first or just
Yeah,
briefly introduce myself?
had a few questions, but I think we'll let you go ahead and talk to your experience first, and then we'll throw out those questions for you.
Okay, sounds good. So, hi everyone. My name is Minjun Chen, and I'm currently a product designer at Microsoft. And actually, I just switched to the new team. So I'm currently working on the work search experience at Microsoft Bing. So before Microsoft, I was working at like Amazon, and the product areas I'm working at Amazon is Prime membership. So I was designing this experience to help our Prime member understand the Prime benefits, especially our new benefit for the Prime member and how we can help the Prime member engage with our Prime benefit. And before Amazon, so at my design journey at Amazon, it was very consumer facing design. And before Amazon, I was working on more enterprise and internal tools, these kind of areas at Wayfair. So I was the product designer at Wayfair, where I'm working on the warehousing team. So I was designing the desktop dashboard as well as this kind of mobile scanner app for our warehouse associate to scan the products, scan the inventory, so they can pick up the inventory and pack and ship into our customer. So it was a very unique domain than any other work I was working at Amazon um, or Microsoft before. So and before this work experience, I graduated from Master of Human Computer Interaction Design at University of Washington, Seattle. So there's a long story for like how I got into UX design. It's basically from my high school. So it's almost maybe 2008. So it's just more than 10 years ago. So during the summertime, one of my one of my friend that came back to China and told me that there's a major called UX design, human computing in the state. And people like, especially the student there who are really who are international student as well, they successfully like land a job in this larger company like Apple, Microsoft after graduation from the school. And she seen the potential for me to also pursue the career in UX design because I love like painting and drawing. So from there, it's kind of a the sea I planning like a couple years ago, and I keep working for reaching this goal. So even though I studied different major in college, so I studied Chinese literature in my college, and I trying to find different opportunity to like uh, to learn this kind of graphic design because I didn't know how I can get into UX design at college in 2010. So I trying to find different like graphic design opportunity where I can like learn this kind of Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, this kind of tool on my own. So after my journey, uh, in my college where it's kind of self-taught learning journey for me to get into the design. And then like I start to applying for this UX design school in the state. But because I wasn't sure about like what kind of UX design portfolio the the graduate school they are looking for. So I also applied for another major called learning science and technology. So the journey ended up with that when I first applied for HCI school, I didn't get any admission from the school in the state. However, I got a lot of admission from education school for studying learning science and technology. So I decided to I decided to accept the offer, and I start my first master degree at University of Pennsylvania. Um, but I still want to like I still want to like learn the design and trying to apply for HCI school again in the next year. So during my time at UPenn, not only I study my like major class in education, learning science areas, but also I took many design class as my elective. So I can end up with having a more comprehensive and great portfolio to apply for this UX design and research ACI school in the state. So I think from my journey at UPenn, I really start to get a sense of about like what is the design process, what is the design thinking, and what is the problem like designer trying to solving for. But because most of my design class at UPenn, they were mainly focusing on like that art installation, like information design and graphic design is not exactly about the UX design. So I end up with using the design portfolio, but not exactly the UX design portfolio to get admission from like UW and other SS school. So after I went to UW, I start my formal like, education in the HCI UX design areas, and from there I start looking for a job and end up with working in a smaller startup company in Boston. So this is my briefly like journey about like how I get into UX design. So I hope like if anyone have the question coming out, so I can just answer along the way. So if you curious about how to apply for SCI, the UX design school in the state, like should I get a degree in the design, or if you have any question about like landing a job or working in this different company or working in larger company and stuff, so you can ask me any question around this different topic. I'm happy to answer. So I see a lots of question coming out in our chat. So could I just take the question on the chat? Okay. So how do you collaborate with other designer? So that's a great question. So first of all, it's depending on the company, depending on the company and what kind of process, the existing process in your current company. So for instance, most of the design team I have been working with, we have we have a weekly design review for our internal design team, which means during that an hour time design review, I can share my design work and get design critique from other designer as well as my design manager on the team. However, like depending on like what kind of project, the scope of project you are taking, most of the design project I'm taking right now, uh, I'm the only solo designer on the team to work directly and closely with my PM and engineer. So which means the designer on my team, they will only give me the design critique, but they are not directly working on my design projects. But it's also depending on like the level of experience. I know some of the junior designer, they might need more support from the senior designer. So they will be working. So as a junior designer, they will be working directly with a senior designer under a specific project, which means the senior designer, like they might be a person who lead the meeting with the PM engineer for reviewing the design, but you might be the person that's doing more like doing spend more time on doing this kind of hand-on design work. So through this kind of collaboration process with senior design folks, senior designer, you can get better understanding on like how they handle the design feedback from the cross-functional team and how they run this design review and what is the design process look like. But in most of my time, like in this different company, I think my design manager give me more ownership and trust on leading either from the smaller project to medium or larger project. So I don't have many experience working directly with the designer on my team on one project. The other thing I want to say is if you are working in a project, like especially working in this larger company like Amazon and Microsoft, sometimes you have to uh, review, you have to present your design work and get alignment with the designer outside your organization. For instance, if I'm working on a specific feature on Microsoft Bing or Edge, I might have to schedule a meeting or send out the email and share my design work with the designer on the Microsoft like Windows team, because we might have some overlapping areas that like maybe there's a small feature on the Windows design team needs get alignment, because it's also the areas we are overlapping together. So we have to review our design work with this designer as well. But this kind of collaboration is more like about like they share the feedback, they share their design framework, design pattern, and we need to make sure that we will incorporate their feedback to design a cohesive experience within the Microsoft or Amazon ecosystem. Yeah, so this is my answer for that first question. And the other question I got is from, did you do any freelance or contract work prior to landing a full-time role? I think that's a great question. So first of all, my master degree was just a 1 year uh, program. So unfortunately, I didn't have the summer time. Like we didn't have a summer internship opportunity, which I think is really important. Like if you have the summer internship, you might leverage that opportunity to like work in the company and get more exposure to working in the technology company and working with this cross-functional team. So I didn't have any summer internship, but I have to find a full-time job directly after graduation from the school. So what I was doing is I actually taking a freelance, like it's just completely like for free, like design works with an early stage startup company in Seattle at that time, because when I was working at that team, the even I didn't get paid, but I think the most important part for me is to get more experience working with the founder, working with these business people and engineer, especially in terms of the product design interview process. A lot of time they will ask you the question around the behavioral questions, such as how have you ever worked with like PM engineer before? If yes, how do you work with these people? And how do you handle the conflict with these people? So I think it's really important, like if you are looking for your first full-time job and you are still in, like if you are still a student trying to looking for like any opportunity that you can work with engineer and business, you can working with engineering and product teams, even it's just a like smaller company, but this kind of experience like you build on from this freelance or contract work can help you get into like better opportunity in the future. Yeah. There's another question is is anyone majoring in? Oh, this is not the the question I need to ask. So let me jump into the other. Do you have any tips looking back for someone trying to land their first UX design job? Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, is like if you are still the student from the design school, I highly encourage you to finding either the freelance job or summer internship or winter internship, any kind of experience you can work with the team is very valuable if you are looking for your first full-time job. And the second one is um, when you're applying for the first time job, don't limit yourself to applying for the job title for the job title, like only say like junior product designer or junior UX designer. So you can apply for like the title like product designer or UX designer without this kind of word juniors in their title, which means like don't really be stressed out by the years of experience on their job position. Like sometimes they will say like 3 or 4 years work experience on their job description. But when I was looking for my first job, even I have zero work experience, but I still apply for this job with experience. I still get a lot of like phone interview, or some of them I even get into the on-site interview. So don't limit yourself to just apply to the junior design positions if you are looking for a full-time job, because right now the market is very competitive. And if you only applying for junior design job, I guess there will be only a few of position there. So just apply as many as possible and trying to changing the title. So sometimes you can search UX design, or sometimes you can search product design or interaction design. The results for this job will be different, but actually the responsibility for and the interview process for UX design and product design and interaction design, they are pretty much the same. um so this is the second tip. And the third tip is about the storage, about the materials, the resume and online portfolio. So I think speaking of the resume, speaking of the resume, trying to using the UX design keyword to write your resume, write the description for your resume. What that means here is, if you can like maybe looking at two or three different like job description for this like UX or product designer role across this different company, you might find some common like UX design keyword they are using on their job description. For instance, a lot of companies they are using product collaborate with like cross-functional team or work with PM engineer. So if you have the similar experience working with the team, you can rephrase the sentence into like collaboration with product manager, collaboration with or work closely with business owner or product owner to create blah blah. So trying to looking at the UX design keyword on your on this kind of job position and apply it into your resume. This is the first thing for your resume. And second thing for your online portfolio, make sure that in your homepage, trying to put UX design works on your homepage of your online portfolio. What I mean here is, I saw a lot of time designer they trying to add different type of design work on the homepage. Sometimes it could be like designing for an iconography, or there's an illustration design project on the homepage. So it's a great opportunity to showcase you like design or visual design skill, but because they are not directly UX design project, so you can move it into maybe in the secondary page, but on your homepage, trying to having 3 or 4 uh UX design project you are most proud of, because you don't need to have like 7 or 8 UX design project on your portfolio. You just need to have like 3 to 4 UX design, the strong UX design project to showcase on your portfolio. And the other thing trying to keep in mind is resume and online portfolio. They help you to get a ticket into your overall into your interview process. But if you are ready, like start interview with the team, with the hiring manager, the most important part for your project is to have a portfolio presentation slide. I think like having a portfolio presentation slide and think about the story, think about like what kind of project you are going to present to showcase your product design skill is very, very important in the actual like interview process. And at the same time, also trying to looking at different resource and practicing the activity or the whiteboarding session like with your friends or peer or any mentor, because especially for whiteboard session, I feel like right now most of the company they they are they are hosting this kind of remote whiteboarding session like in Figma or like other design tool, and they will give you a design prompt to solve during an hour long like whiteboard design challenge. So make sure that you still squeeze some time to practicing the whiteboard um, at home.
Something else I'd add to that, Minjun, just for prepping for those interviews and prepping for trying to get that job. One of the things that really helped me was that I took my portfolio, my resume, and really spun my UX knowledge on that as well. So what I mean by that is you have to think of those interviewers as your user at that point. So you want to build your resume, you want to build your portfolio as somebody that's coming in and saying, this is what you're here for, this is what you want to read, this is me, that's it. Like, you don't want to give them extra fluff, but you want to just get them in and out and have an understanding of what you're trying to search for.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this is a really great point applied to like you need to leverage the UX design keyword and use UX design project on your resume other than using like different like job title or different type of project on your resume. And I need to looking back about the question. I just forget about what is the question. Yeah, do you have any tip for finding the first job? Yeah. And the other thing is like before you start to apply for your first job, trying to start networking as early as possible. So like for me, like early on because I graduated from the HCI school, so usually I connect with the alumni who graduate from the same program because they are the people like most approachable for me. Like, so I just send an email or reach out to them on LinkedIn, and they can help me like review my portfolio, resume, and share some feedback because these alumni are already working in like this company, so the feedback they give me can really help me improve my portfolio and the resume. And again, like if when I applying for this company, they are more than willing to like send me the referral to this company because like I think there's a lot of discussion around like should I ask like people for referral. I think yes, but doing the purpose of the networking is not just about I want to get the referral from that person. It's more about I want to learn something from that person. So it's kind of the two-way conversation happening between the people who are networking with in your design community. So trying to just start networking like early because I feel like if you already like looking already if you want to apply for a job, like you can say to someone who you just meet and ask them for referral, right? So start networking as early as possible. This is another advice. What else? Yeah, and for finding a first job, the last thing is my strategy is just apply as many as possible so you can get more interview opportunity, because no matter what kind of advice or like strategy to like navigate this different interview session, the most important tips or advice I have is just go to this real interview session. And after each interview session, even you fail the interview, you can still like having keep opening up the Google Docs and write down like what things work well and what things didn't work well, because this kind of reflection can really help you like do better in your next job interview. And the other thing you can do is after the interview session, trying to write down the question you are asked during maybe the hiring manager call or during the presentation. Because after you start to collect this interview question, you will see a pattern, you will see a trend, because this question might be the most common question other company will ask you as well. So you can prepare the answer to these questions before you move into next interview. Yeah, so this is my advice for landing the first job. But again, like landing a first job isn't an easy process for most of the people. It just take time, and don't be like discouraged by any rejection. Like getting a rejection is the most common thing like during the job hunting process. So just keep going and iterate your portfolio and looking for like feedback and practicing this interview session with your peer. So let me see. Oh,
Question is, thinking back at some of the work you've done, especially when working with some larger companies, what do you feel is the most detrimental towards building a good user experience, and what did you do or would be your suggestion to avoid that moving forward?
you good? Could you explain this question a little bit? I'm not really fully understand like yeah. Let's move. Yeah, could you elaborate this question a little bit?
Jeff, feel free to pop in if you want to explain your question here.
Minjan, I understood it to be basically bad user experience working in a company. What were practices that you found led to that, and how do you avoid it?
Uh, but what do you
So,
mean by
yeah.
the bad user experience? Yeah.
So in Jeff's words here, he
Yeah,
said,
Jeff, are
"What
you
is something
there?
that you felt went bad, and how did you fix it?"
Hmm. So like if I find there's a bad like user experience in the product, like how I'm going to fix.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a very complicated project. Like first of all, like a lot of project is not about if there's a is there something needs the design to support we will do. It's more about like the priority coming out from both the business side and design side. So usually the design manager and higher level product manager, they will go into the meeting in the beginning of each quarter, and they will prioritize what kind of design, what kind of project needs immediate design support that will have the maximum business impact and impact on our customer side. So, and the second thing is, if you are given a project that that they don't have a great user experience, uh, what I'm doing is I will try to ask my team about do we have any existing user research data? Have we done any research, UX research, user research before? If yes, we can looking at the existing user research to figure out like what is the exactly like pain point or what kind of behavior like user have by using that product, because like the bad user experience is very vague. We need to understand what is the major issue the user they are having. And if not, we don't have any like research, maybe that is the time you need to propose uh and you need to ask the time to do the UX research and get alignment with your product manager. So if you get opportunity to like interview with a couple user, which is good. So you can get more like insight from the user research to understand like what is the best user experience for Lens means and how you can fix it into your project. And sometimes if you are doing the research, you might find there's more than like three or even more like problem or issue we need to fix. So sometimes depending on the time, like how much time you have for this project, you also need to prioritize like what kind of the issue we need to focus on for this sprint with your product manager. So it's not just about like as a designer, I made the decision. Like even I have my design, maybe design proposal or design preference, but I need to make sure that my cross-functional team they understand my approach. They understand like why I'm going to do the UX research or why we want to prioritize like these three as our top user problem we need to solve for this sprint. So there's more than just saying like this is the bad user experience we need to fix. It's more about like we need to figure out exact uh, problem and get alignment with the team and to going through the process. Yeah, because I think this question is so vague. So I think I can just only answer what I'm thinking right now. Yeah.
I think that's a great answer. Minjan, let me help you read it the next question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Asking what are some qualities or skills that you should highlight to appeal for the hiring team as a product designer?
Mm-hmm. That is a great question. So, first of all, like in terms of the skill set for the product designer they are looking for, we can summarize it into two large buckets. The first one is the hard skill. So under the hard skill is more about like interaction design skill and visual design skill. And sometimes as a designer, we have to do the UX research as well. So some sort of UX research and usability testing skill is also like the hard skill they are looking for. And the second bucket is the soft skill. This is something I feel like, especially for student designer or junior designer, they are forget. They often like forget is the soft skill. What is the soft skill here is communication, collaboration, self awareness. Like, are you really know about like what is your strengths and opportunity areas, and are you eager to grow and learn? So I think this kind of thing can go into the soft skill. So which means like based on these two high level bucket, hard skill and soft skill, you need to find a story. You need to communicate that I'm the designer, I'm the well-rounded designer who have this product design skill. However, like if I want to stand out from other candidate, I might be really great at maybe two skill out of all these kind of skill we list out here. So for me, like I love to position myself as a designer, as a well-rounded designer who basically can do like UX research, like testing from like wireframe and hyper design, when I can work closely with my cross-functional team. However, like my superpower is the interaction design and presentation, like this kind of communication skill. So what does that means here is when I was doing my portfolio presentations, I will think about like in my first project, how I can communicate, how I can showcase my this kind of product design skill, overall product design skill with a focus on maybe specific interaction design. Or like in the second project, like if you don't have the time to highlight, I'm really great at interaction design or prototyping. In your second in your second project, you might be more focusing on like I show a lot of variety for how I iterate. I'm doing a lot of different prototypes in Figma to showcase the micro interaction. So I need to think about like what kind of story, what kind of skill set I want to communicate using this specific example from my portfolio presentation. And again, because I want to position myself as a designer who are really great at doing the presentation, so I really spend the time to like design the entire presentation slide as well, and really focusing on like how I can incorporate my like personal like brandings into my portfolio presentation to showcase this specific skill set as my superpower. So I think like understanding about the high level hard skill and soft skill as a product designer they are looking for higher, and also think about what is your superpower, and always like using the specific story and example to communicate um like your product design skill. The other thing going to this question is I saw a lot of mistake like designer makes during their portfolio presentation um for showcase their design skill is sometimes we often hear that the designer will say, okay, I'm really great at maybe presentation, like designing the presentation. However, like you can see a lot of like typo, or there's not a consistent like color they are using on their presentation slide. It's also a reflection for that designer. They are not pay attention to detail, and they are maybe not really great at visual design. So for me, like rather than saying I'm really great at visual design or presentation design, I will using my presentation to showcase I'm good at this thing. So the story, like the example itself is way more important than saying I'm really great at something. Yeah. So this is another thing trying to keep in mind if you think about like what kind of story you want to communicate during your portfolio presentation.
So Minjun, we still have a few more questions. Are you okay still continuing?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to combine the question from Arden and Jacob. The question is, how was your experience, Minjan, at HCI program? What did you learn? And did your major help you as a UI/UX designer?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think like like get into becoming a UX designer, like having a SCI degree is not necessary to becoming a UX designer. It's also depending on like your learning style. Like personally, I would like to pursue a degree so I can concentrate all my time and commit into the UX design path. And the second is, I think the most thing I learned from my UW ACI program is about the fundamental of the UX design methodology and the UX research methodology. But because they will teach a broad range of the methods you can apply for your project, but as a designer, you still need to spend a lot of time. Like for example, if you don't have any experience working with Figma, you really need to spend the time on your own to learn the Figma, to learn the tool. And you really also need to spend the time to learn like what is the common design pattern, like what is, for example, like Google material design guideline or Apple human interface timeline. Because all these things, this kind of fundamental, like hard, sometimes like the hard skill, like the design pattern or design system or these different like software skill, you can learn these things from your school program. You need to spend the time to craft your skill, your hard skill as well. And the third thing is, I think the good thing about the HCI, especially if you go into the 2 years program, you might get opportunity uh to looking for your summer internship, because if you get the summer internship opportunity and you work really well in your summer internship company, most of my friends, like they got the return offer from the company. So which means that in the second years of their master program before graduation, they don't have to worry about the full-time job because they already get a job from their summer internship. So if you really stress out, and if you are a student like who haven't have any like experience in the UX design, maybe considering the 2 years program and trying to leverage in the summertime to finding the internship and then get the return offer. That is a pretty like great investment like from my perspective. And the other thing is more about like if you get into this kind of UX ICI programs, I think the people, the community there is very valuable because, as I mentioned earlier, I can I feel very easily to reach out to the alumni from the UW ICI program and get their support and help on my design career. So I truly get a lot of support from them when I was looking for my first job because they give me a lot of like design critique and the review like on my portfolio and my side project as well. Yeah, but the last thing is like the degree is not as important. Like if you already start working maybe as a freelance designer or as a like contractor in this company, because you already get the work experience in UX design. So having a degree in SCI is less important, because if the purpose for you is to just leveling out your design career and finding the job opportunity in this company, like having the actual work experience is way more important than any degrees. Yeah.
Thank you, Min John. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us before we forget. So we are actually going to host an in-person next fall or winter, pending on the this fall or winter, pending our arrangement with Brain Station. So stay tuned for that. Just to give Minjan a quick breather, I'm going to combine the last 3 questions because they're interview related. So Arnell was asking tips for presenting portfolio during the interview. Chang was asking a related question of how do you keep improving your UI skills, and also if you did referrals when you interviewed to Microsoft, like did they help you in terms of advisor interviews if you had referrals?
Okay, yeah. So maybe I can start with the last question
Sure.
about the
Yeah.
referral, because that is the most easy question to answer. I feel like so getting a referral, is also based on my personal experience. I feel like getting a referral is just a a kind of process, help you speed up the process for the recruiter to reviews your resume like faster than other. This is how I understand about the referral, because it won't influence the end result, because sometimes even you get referral to specific company, you will still get a rejection immediately after you get the referral. So I feel like the referral doesn't really associate with the outcomes for your job interview. It's more about like how fast your application will be reviewed by recruiter or by the hiring team. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, this is how I understand about the referral. And going back to the question about the UI, yeah, I think like even though we are the UX designer or the product designer, but having a solid or strong foundation or strong background in UI or visual design is very important, because if you can apply your great UI and visual design skill into your portfolio, into your online portfolio or portfolio presentation, you will make a very great first impressions on the hiring team. Because think about these people, like think about the hiring manager, or the recruiter, they don't have the time to really spend maybe like 10 more minutes to read your case study. They might just open out your portfolio and quickly scan the project on your portfolio. So having a great visual and the UI for your case study, for your portfolio, is really crucial. You will make an immediate great impression on these people. Um, so, and how I enhance my UI and UX UI skill? I think that's a great question. I think most of the time I love to looking at the existing product. For example, like Airbnb, like Spotify, like Google Map. I feel like I love really I just using this product, and I will just looking at their design. And if you have the actual time, you can looking at the Google material design website or the human interface uh, website from Apple, because they have a very solid public like design system online to help you study like the best practice for when to use this specific component, and like do or do not use this component in a specific time. So if you really want to learn the fundamental of the best practice for this UI, going to this public like design system you can find just online is the best advice I can share. And the other thing, because the other advice is not from myself, is from other designer I know before. Like some people, like especially for designer who have no visual design background, like they want to enhance their UI design skill. So the advice I hear is you can take a screenshot maybe from Airbnb, and you're trying to create the exact screen that Airbnb screen shows on in your Figma. So you're trying to just trying to draw everything and make sure and make the screen look exactly the same as that screenshot you took from Airbnb. So in this way, you can really study about how how big the font they are using for like body text, for header, and what kind of padding and spacing they are using between the paragraph, between each UI component. And if you start doing this like gradually, you might have a better understanding about the layout, like how to make it balance, information hierarchy, and everything around the UI. But because I haven't done anything for that yet before, but I do feel like starting the existing product in the market is the best thing, best resource we can get easily from our like daily life. Yeah, because I'm not a big fan of like looking at dribble, because a lot of time like dribble, even the dribble will create a very like fancy prototype of design map, but a lot of time they can be implemented because of some business concern or technical constraint. So looking at the existing product that already launched in the market is the best thing. Yeah. And
Thanks.
going back to, yeah, there's a third question about the portfolio presentation. So
Thank you.
I actually did a few talk about the portfolio presentation. I can share the links on our chat because that is a topic we can spend another hour to talk about. So basically, like for first of all, for your portfolio presentation, you need to spend the time to design your portfolio presentation slide. And the second thing is think about what kind of project you're going to pick up, because usually the company, they will ask you to present 2 or 3 projects during an hour long portfolio presentation. And the third thing is make sure that you have an introduction slide before you talk about your project. It might be take like 3 to 5 minutes. It's a great time for you to showcase like who you are as a designer, as a human. And then going to each project itself, there definitely we have some like structure and the framework you can leverage for each of the project. So basically, when you go into presenting each of the project, each of the case study, first of all, you need to give a high level context about like what is your role, what kind of people you are working with. Like I work with 1 PM engineer. Like how long did this project takes, and what is the end result. So you need to have a very high level summarized slide in the beginning, so they can understand like the time, the team for this project. And then you can go into the next process. Is more about give the context about this project, like what kind of user problem you're trying to solve, what kind of research you did, and what is the business problem. If this is the project you're working in this company, what kind of success metric like you have from the team. So you need to set up the context, business problem, user problem, success metric before you go into the actual design process. And during the design process, it's also depending on like what kind of like skill you need to showcase. So if I want to showcase so I always prepare like 3 mini story during my design process to showcase my skill sets in visual design, interaction design, and the collaboration. Like for example, like I will show like the iteration of my different like design exploration, and talk about like the pro and con for different exploration. And then I will bring the feedback from my user research, from my user, as well as from my PM and engineer. Because some story I often say is about like if the user is leaning toward if the use from the usability research, we find that user prefer the option A. So I also feel like this is a great option because of the user feedback. So I present it to my PM engineering team. However, during my meeting with them, the engineer proposed a technical limitation on that option B. So which means as a designer, like, you need to make a balance. You need to make a trade-off between user needs and technical constraint. And then you might need to take the engineer feedback and going back to the decks, and you may start another round of iteration to figure out like how you solve this technical problem. And then I show other design iteration. So I'm using this specific example to showcase I can incorporate the feedback from my engineering team and also listen to the user feedback, and I can make the trade-off and keep the project moving forward. So after you talk about this kind of design process, the last couple of slides about like what is the next step, what is your learning, and what is the outcome from this project. And the other thing I want to say is for the outcomes slide, if this is the student project, not the company project, you might not have the business outcome, but you can use the quote from the user. So you might do some UV testing study, and the user say they really enjoying this new design because of blah blah reason. You can incorporate their feedback, their positive user feedback as the outcome on that slide. Or the outcome can also be like, how did you incorporate the collaboration process with your teammates? So it's not just the product outcome. It could be the outcome from the user, from the process, from the team collaboration process. Yeah, so I think, but it's a great topic that we can dive deep into like way more than these couple minutes. Yeah.
It's very good. I wanted to wrap this up because we have doubled the time we're here. Thank you so much, Ming Jun, for answering everyone's great questions. Reminder that you can connect with us anytime on the Friends of Figma LinkedIn page or through the Figma page that you registered in. So thank you on behalf of me and Mallory and Minjun. The recording for this session will be available on our YouTube, and we'll drop the link on our Friends of Figma page. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed tonight's session, and take care.
Thank you. Thanks for joining
Thanks,
tonight.
everyone.